It is March 16th, 2018, and it is time for another edition of the Nosebleeds podcast. Welcome to the Nosebleeds podcast. You can communicate with us on Twitter at nosebleeds_pod. Great way to communicate. Or you just use the hashtag the nosebleedspod. Pretty easy way for you to talk with us, with me, about sports topics that you want addressed on the show. Yeah. So, this past week, the NCAA tourney began. We saw Buffalo upset Arizona last night, bust a lot of brackets. We saw a lot of moves in NFL free agency. The NBA, I want to go on a little bit of a rant about a team that we all should be talking about, but it seems like none of us are. And we'll see where we'll go from there. So, let's start off in the NFL. The Vikings making lots of moves around. The Vikings QBs making lots of moves. They got Kirk Cousins, 3 years, $84 million. Most of that is guaranteed too. Lots of money for him to play up north. Case Keenum went to Denver, 2 years, $25 million. Teddy Bridgewater to the Jets, 1 year for $15 million. And Bradford to Arizona, filling in where Carson Palmer was for this next season, $20 million. Also around QBs, Drew Brees staying in New Orleans, 2 years, $50 million for him to stay with New Orleans and try to win them another championship. This past season, they had a great run, losing on a Hail Mary, pretty much, on the last play of the game. So, he's going to be staying in New Orleans for the next 2 years, next 2 seasons, to hopefully lead Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Marshawn Lattimore, be the nice group of young guys to win it all. The Raiders making moves too, signing Jordy Nelson and signing Doug Martin, but also releasing Michael Crabtree. Crabtree, a pretty good receiver. I would personally like to see him go to the NFC West, maybe like Arizona or Seattle, because we knew that rivalry with Richard Sherman that we saw a few years ago after that one NFC Championship game between the Niners and the Seahawks. And then also keep his rivalry with Talib going for us with all the chain stuff. Talib yanking off Crabtree's gold chain on the field. That becoming a whole big thing. So, Cleveland still making moves. Last week we saw them get Tyrod Taylor and Jarvis Landry. This week they trade away Jason McCourty, which I think is a great move for them. I'm not a huge fan of Jason McCourty. I don't think he's that great of a player. So getting rid of him, I think, helps a lot. Joe Thomas retired. Pretty big. He had a record 10,363 straight snaps before that streak ended this past season. 10 Pro Bowls and all 10 of the complete seasons he played. I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I asked you guys on Instagram earlier this week at Cole Pistolano, should he be a Hall of Famer? 68% said yes, 32% said no. Yeah, and I think he should be. Browns also announcing Tyrod Taylor will be the starter. So we see that now pretty much cementing the fact that they will get Shaq Barkley in the draft. Without a doubt, the Browns are going to get Shaquan Barkley in the draft. So, talk about the New England Patriots. They lose a lot of players and not getting much back. First off, they lost Danny Amendola to Miami. They lost Nate Solder to the Giants. They lose both Malcolm Butler and Dion Lewis to Tennessee. Whereas coming back, they didn't get that much. They're getting Jeremy Hill, and that's it. Or they're meeting with Jeremy Hill. It's not even confirmed that they're getting Jeremy Hill. But there's a possibility that he will come to New England, and that's all you're getting back right now. You got him, and they re-signed Burkhead. Jimmy Graham signing with the Packers after being released by Seattle. I think this is a great move for Green Bay. They lose Jordy Nelson, who is one of Rodgers' favorite targets. But then they gain back Jimmy Graham, who is a great red zone guy. He can really perform in the red zone inside that 20-yard line, and he will make a huge impact for this Packers team. Maybe get pushing. If Rodgers stays healthy, this Packers team will be pushed back into the playoffs. Also, just in from Schefter, Vontaze Burfict has been suspended 4 games for violating the NFL's PED policy. He will appeal it, but there's no date yet. Interesting. Vontaze Burfict, once again, getting into trouble with the league. And let's move to the association. I want to talk about the team that is currently 3rd in the West. And no, we're not talking about the Thunder, the T-Wolves, the Spurs, Pelicans, no. A team that is very often neglected by the media. Rip City Basketball, the Portland Trail Blazers, on an 11-game winning streak. Damian Lillard averaging 27 points a game. 7 assists a game. He is starting all 61 games for them. Not all 61. But he's starting 61 games for them. Also averaging a steal a game. I mean, I think they should definitely be talked about more. We very often neglect Portland. When talking about the best teams in the NBA, we never talk about the Portland Trail Blazers. They just beat the Cavaliers last night. The Cavs are one of the best teams in the NBA in these past few seasons. They have LeBron, the best player in the league. And still, we forget about them. We don't talk about them. This 11-game winning streak. Who have they beaten? Golden State twice, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Cleveland. But they're neglected because they're on the West Coast, which means their games start at 10:30 here on the East. And they're in a small market. If this team was in a place like LA or the Bay, we'd be talking about them. If they were in New York, we would overhear about the Blazers. But because they're in Portland, we never hear about them. I want to fix that. I want to talk about the Portland Trail Blazers. So, as we look ahead on their schedule, in their next 4 games, 3 of them are nationally televised, 2 on NBA TV. But they all start at 10 or later. Detroit, then they have the Clippers, then they have Houston, then they have Boston. But the thing is, nobody will watch, or very few will watch, because they're on the West. They're on the West Coast. Those late starts aren't good for them. And we've talked so much about the MVP race here on the show. About Harden or Davis. Harden, Davis. But what about Damian Lillard? Top 5 in points, almost top 10 in assists. And he's leading this team. They're in the 3 seed right now. So we should at least be talking about the Blazers over at least Lillard over Davis, because Davis is on a team who isn't in that like top 5 in the conference. The Blazers currently have 3 wins over 3 wins over the Pelicans. You look at it, that's 2.5 games. 3 games, actually. They're 3 games above the Pelicans. And still, nobody mentions the Blazers. Why are we ignoring Rip City? We need to stop that. We need to talk more about Portland. Alright, let's move on. Buffalo beating Arizona last night. Not just a win, but a 21-point win. Buffalo 89, Arizona 68. Wow. I mean, the Pac-12 now has no teams left. No teams from the Pac-12 are in the round of 32. And I mean, wow. We're talking about. So, of course, you're also talking about. Of course, when you're talking about Arizona, you have to talk about the FBI scandal. And I think that either way, if Arizona won again, it's going to get vacated anyways. No matter what, it's going to get vacated. If they make a Final Four, if they make a Sweet 16, it doesn't matter. Elite 8, champions, it would get vacated. Because this FBI scandal is out, and we know that they are paying players. They're paying players to play for them. Pay for play. And so even no matter what, it would get vacated. But now, of course, we talk about the Pac-12. The Ball brothers aren't there anymore. LiAngelo got pulled, and LaMelo isn't going. But you do have Sharif O'Neal coming. He was going to go to Arizona. He switched out. But he still is in the Pac-12. He's going to UCLA. But then you have USC, who's losing a bunch of their players. They're losing McLaughlin, Metu, Jordan Usher. All these guys are leaving too. Where really now it's like, oh, DeAndre Ayton, he's leaving too. So now you look at the Pac-12, who's there? Sharif O'Neal. And that's really all you have. And so, really bringing down the Pac-12. And now this, where you do not have a team leaving the first round. No Pac-12 teams even won a game. Arizona State, Arizona and UCLA. Arizona State and UCLA both losing in the first 4. And now Arizona losing here in the first round. So that'll do it for the show. Follow us at nosebleeds_pod, hashtag the nosebleeds pod. See you next week.